Hey guys, TJ Schwarz here from Schwarz Knives. Welcome back to the shop and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm installing a Pierson mini pallet system right here in the sile. The next video is going to be making a fixture for my Overland fixed blade knife using this system, but today the full install. I'll show you how I'm doing it. So I decided to go with the Saunders Machine Works base plate. This is not necessary for a Pierson, but it's handy for setting up different operations and whatnot. I have a mock-up here of how this is going to sit. This is the larger pallet. There's the smaller pallet that is only a little bit bigger than the actual base here. The larger pallet I'll need to use for some of my stuff. As you can see, I've got almost no clearance to my tool setter. I'm kind of thinking about it. I might turn the tool setter 90 degrees or something. I'm a little weary of how close that is. I do like the height. It's actually taller than this, so that's going to be okay. I was wondering if I was going to need a riser. I don't think that'll be necessary, but yeah. So that's how it's going to look. I've got an air hose running into the front of the system. It's all coiled up. It's nothing fancy right now. I hooked it up to just an air line because there's a push release button to release the pallet. But before I run all the wire and mount the push release and all that, I am just mocking this all up. I just want to get the position correct, and I can't get the pallet on and off without the air. So that's where she's going to sit. I'll show you how she attaches. So as you can see, the pallet is attached. I'm going to go ahead and... So I've got air running to it. Ignore the big leak. Just lifts right off. So as you can see, those balls have retracted. Now when I remove the air, hopefully you can see they pop back out. So right here you can see they've extended again, but with air pressure they close up, and these are the locating pins, and these are the precision pads that it kind of draws the pallet down on. So the way I'm going to do this is there's 4 holes in this mini system that line up with the hole pattern of the Saunders pallet. So I had to buy the shoulder bolts that are an extra kit that come from Pierson so that it'll mount to this. I'm going to mount it up, and then I'm going to just see how square and true we ended up being, because this should be square and true. I indicated the back when I installed it, and then in addition to that, these shoulder bolts should locate this in a way that is not out of rotation. So that's part of the advantage of this base plate, is if I wanted to put a vise back on, I could theoretically pull this off and put a vise on, and I wouldn't have to worry too much about tramming this guy when I put it back on. So yeah, I'll run those in. I did put LPS rust preventer underneath this. It's an aluminum plate and aluminum fixture system here, but you never know. Aluminum still oxidizes. I just don't want anything going on under there. I use that stuff liberally. Put it on in between there just to prevent any kind of weird corrosion problem. And I will grab one of the shoulder bolts. So these are really nice looking. They're not cheap. $40 for a set of 4 of them. But I think the workflow efficiency is going to be nice. So they drop in and screw in like that. Once again, they should be precise enough to actually locate the thing. We'll find out. So I got the Heimer on it. I haven't done anything other than hand tighten those bolts. It's looking beautiful. Really beautiful. So like I said, I did spend a good amount of time getting the plate square when I installed it. So this is proving that the combination of Saunders and Pierson is dead nuts. So I didn't think it'd be quite that good. I thought I would probably have to unbolt the plate and actually move the entire plate to get this thing square, because it can't be moved in relation to the plate. The whole plate would have to move. And because that's so zeroed and straight on the first try, I have a lot of confidence in this. That makes me really happy. So the beauty of that is, again, taking that off, put a vise on, do something else, put it back on. I'll probably always re-indicate it because that's just smart, but the fact that I probably won't have to mess with it in the future is really, really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and suck those down a little tighter, double check it for tram, And then we're already moving on to getting air to this puppy. I changed my mind and decided to check one more thing before moving forward. I went and zeroed my Heimer on the right hand pad and the left hand pad in the back corner, as you can see there. And I took a picture of the position on the left side, and I'm looking at the position on the right side, and we are 0.2 of deviation between those two locations, back left and back right, which is perfect. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's as good as you're going to expect. There is the tolerance stack up of the plate and the fixture, and then these machined or surface ground hardened inserts they put in there. So all that stacking up with the machine and everything to only be 0.2 across there is right on the money as far as I'm concerned. I am going to sweep it across the actual pad now and see in the Y direction how we're doing. So get ready to do that. So we are getting movement there. So we went about 1.5 ticks, but this is a metric indicator, so I think that's like 5 or 6 tenths. So that's less than perfect. It's hard to say whether that's the plate, whether that's the Pierson, or whether that's the machine. Honestly, I guess if I went back down to the table and took everything off, I could check it there and see what's going on, but 5 tenths, I think I'm okay with that. Once I put a pallet on here and machine the surface, the pallet surface is guaranteed to be flat to the machine. The only reason this matters is if it's repeatable. So if I switch things around, do something different, and the pallet goes back on, it may not be straight again. But I think if I put this thing in the same spot every time with the same 4 bolt holes, it should always be the same in theory. In theory, of course, who knows? But I will be checking that in the future and seeing if it's moving around. But overall, 0.2 in the X, 4 or 5-ish tenths in the Y. It's going to be good enough, I think. So here is the button release that needs to go on here. It's got an air outlet, some kind of filter for blow off, I assume, and in and an out, and your push button. It's got a fork on the back for a 1/2 inch by 13 bolt that goes into the plate or into a T-nut if you're doing it on a table. So I put the pallet back on so that I can get this thing positioned where I want it. I want it to be completely outside of the way of everything. So you just reach in here, boom, hit it. It applies air pressure, you remove the pallet, switch it, do whatever you need to do. So I'll figure out how to mount this, and then I need to run the air hose over to it. Once I do that, I need to run air out of the machine to an air supply. So the cabling here for this machine, this actually runs I presume both the X and the Y, comes down to the table. It makes for a good way to run air. So the air is going to go up that, zip tie its way up, and then I'm going to have to drill a hole somewhere up here and put a bulkhead so that the air line can go through. And then I've got air supplied from the ceiling. I'm going to tee over, this is PEX pipe back there, tee over and go to some kind of bulkhead right there. And then I'll have air that's totally out of the way that travels with the cable management system that should never bind up, I would hope. So I mounted the push button right here. It does say there's that port for the exhaust to the right and air out to the plate on the left side of the logo and air in on the right side of the logo. One thing that was not included in the kit that maybe they should include, a 90-degree elbow right here. I actually mocked it up the first time with a single line, and I was getting what looked like a possible kink zone right here. So I did this. I put the 90. I had one of those laying around, fortunately. So that's the first little stretch. Possibly could see myself doing something. I could always 3D print some little inserts for these plugs that hold this, that ensure it never, for whatever reason, comes popping up or gets snagged. Should be out of the way as far as I'm concerned, though. So yeah, so now I got to run some air and get my bulkhead figured out. That'll be the trickiest part of this whole job, is the hardware interface to go from PEX to this stuff. The kit does come with the 1/4 MPT thread inserts, so all the air fittings you technically need. One extra note I'll add. It's easy probably to think about actually tramming off the back of the pallet when you put it in with that indicator. Don't do that. This is a piece of extruded material that's been grained and it's low precision. Nothing about this fixture is precision except for where it interfaces with the pallet holder. And so if you were to tram this on the back of this, it would be probably a good amount off, and it should not matter because the next pallet to come on is going to locate in the same relative location. And as long as the machine knows where this fixture, depending on how you set up your work coordinate system, as long as the machine is square to the fixture base and your work coordinate system is set up correctly, the squareness of this shouldn't matter that much. So I decided not to bore you guys too much with the air fittings I installed. After all, it would be very specific to your situation, but I've got the air going through. I need more cable ties. I got 2 of them and I ran out, but I'm gonna zip tie very frequently all the way up there. I drilled a 3/4 inch hole with a bimetal hole saw through there. It's raw and empty right now. My plan is I'm gonna put a 1/4 inch bulkhead fitting, like a brass fitting, 1/4 inch MPT, and just have push to connect in the ceiling right there. And then also push to connect on the outside, so you actually have a pass through a brass fitting so that you don't get it rubbing, and it's also sealed for future, mist or oil or whatever. And then on this end, I've got a bunch of extra hose because I need to have some extra for when I do that bulkhead fitting. It'll be here tomorrow from Amazon. But I did a valve teeing off of this line. I was gonna run PEX all the way over to that hole, but I couldn't figure out a way to easily interface that PEX down through that hole that looked clean. And it made more sense almost just to run this line. You can see there's a cable tray right there that I zip tied it along. So it was just the clean way to do it. They sent me enough hose so I can shut off just the Pierson line, the air itself. If it ever got nicked or something, I could shut the air off to it and the machine would keep running. And once again, you don't need air to the system at all to run the machine. You only need the air to release it. Earlier, I made a mistake. I had thought that you push the button in order to release the pallet, but the reality is you pull it. That's all you do, and the pallet's free. And then push, and it's locked. So really an amazing system. Seems really well engineered. I know a lot of people that run them and trust them. I just wanted to give one last quick demo, fully assembled, showing how this works. Once again, up on the button over here. Off nice and easy. You can see the interface right there. You got precision hardened steel locating holes, and then the collar in the middle for holding it down, as well as the machined flat surfaces that go on those pads. Drop it back on, push down, all set. So yeah, you can switch pallets really fast. I love it. Also, I threw a tool rack right here, storage system for my tools right here on the side of the sile. Looks really good, kind of makes the machine look even cooler and keeps my bench space nice and open. And I'm not worried about rolling nice Mari tool fancy holders onto the ground anymore. I had exceeded the capacity of my old rack. Pretty stoked about that. But that's it for this video, guys. That's the Pierson install. Mileage may vary. Everyone's got different machine and air situations, but really running the air is the only complicated part. I think these systems for the money are incredible. I expect this thing to pay for itself in no time, especially switching from one model of a knife to another. I do need to make fixtures now though. I have no fixtures that interface with this system. So the next video I post is going to be me starting today, right now, machining a fixture for the Overland fixed blade that I make. It's going to be kind of the fixture of fixtures. I'm going to apply all the things that I've learned making these knives for a couple years, and I hope you tune in for that as well. Thanks for viewing the channel, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. You know how it goes. Thanks again.